Today, let's find out if tea scholars can also produce good tea. Hey everyone, I'm Sigi and I love all things pu'er. And that's what we are going to talk about today, once again after it's been quite a while since I've been drinking a lot of yancha lately. But I have something very interesting with me today, and that is the 2006 Yiwu Chuanqi. Now, the name of this tea translates to something like the Legend of Yiwu. And what's so special about this tea is that it is made by Shi Kunmu, a tea scholar whose material I've used quite a lot in my Pu'er Tea Lexicon videos. If you haven't watched those yet, definitely do check them out. I think they contain some very useful information. But yeah, so we came across this tea that he produced in 2006. It was also harvested in 2006. And what's interesting about it is the material of this tea isn't actually entirely Yiwu. This and I think 4 other teas, if I remember correctly, back in 2006, were blended from 8 different batches of ancient tea trees, or ancient tree tea. And these 8 batches are from 3 different regions in Yunnan: Baoshan, Linzang, and Xishuangbanna. Now, given that such a famous person in the tea world has attached their name to this tea, and given that it is made from ancient tree tea, this isn't gonna come particularly cheap. So what's the price? On the nannuoshan US store, it is $56 for 50 grams and $319 for a 357 gram Bing of Sheng Pu'er. On the EU nannuoshan store, it is 51 euros for 50 grams or 290 euros for the same 357 gram Bing. Okay, so those are the facts. This is the person that made the tea. I've boiled my water. I've got 6 grams of tea here. As usual, 100 milliliters of water, as close to boiling as possible. It is kind of interesting how this tea is called the Legend of Yiwu, but it's made from so many different materials. I do think one of the reasons for that is just that the producer of this tea, said tea scholar and author Shi Kunmu, has a pretty close connection to Yiwu, so that might be why. Okay, here is the first steep of this tea. Now, I have said this is from 2006. The storage on it is quite conservative. As we can see here, this tea hasn't gotten particularly dark yet, even though it's already 17 years old. But if it's really made from good material and it's a good blend, then preserving some of these more youthful characteristics is not a bad thing per se. What it definitely will allow us to do is to judge more easily whether this is as good as I hope it is. As I've said, Shi Kunmu is somebody who I personally respect quite a lot. I've tried to read as many of his writings as possible. Now, I say try to because they're not really available in English, so I have to use translation to understand them. But still, I do feel like I've learned quite a lot from him, and at least the impression I get is that he does a really good job of packaging Pu'er knowledge in a way that makes it quite accessible, which I think is a really good skill to have. But we're not here to judge the man today, we're here to judge his tea. So without any further ado, here's the first steep. It does smell quite pleasant. Just from looking at the tea, it does seem to be quite viscous. It definitely has a bit of that age in the taste, even though it looks quite bright. Once you taste it, you definitely notice that this is not a fresh tea in that sense, a young tea. It has matured a fair bit. It definitely has some good mouthfeel. Nice kind of viscosity. And it's got some good fragrance too. It's honestly kind of interesting. Like, for a tea at this age, it definitely has more kind of high-pitched notes than I would expect. But at the same time, there is already a certain sense of mellowness to it. And especially in the aftertaste, you get kind of a honey-like fragrance coming out and maybe something a bit more underneath, something that's almost kind of like a sweet wood, if that makes sense. Yeah, but so far, first impression, very good. Ah, certainly a higher quality tea, I'd say. It's quite easy to notice that. Now, there is maybe also an aspect of judging the particular blend here. As I've mentioned, this was made from 8 different batches of tea, and these 8 batches went into, I think, 5 different tea productions where they are blended at different ratios to highlight different aspects of tea. This entire set is meant to be educational in some way, or at least 4 of the teas are kind of educational to highlight different aspects and teach people various things about tasting tea. And then there is this 5th one, The Legend of Yiwu. It stands a bit apart from that group of 4. So I wonder what the particular intention behind this tea was. And revealing an intention like that, I think, can't just be done by drinking a tea like this once. Maybe once you drink it several times and contrast it with other teas, you start to note certain peculiarities that could maybe hint at what the person making the tea was really going for here. Right now, I do like how kind of fresh and refreshing this is on the one hand, but also how mellow and not aggressive it is at the same time. Younger Pu'er tea, especially when it's younger than like 2 years, can sometimes have an edge that makes it a little bit uncomfortable. Especially, I've personally noticed that in the stomach, and that's something I don't really get here at all. This is just a comfortable tea. All right. Now, we're about to finish the first 2 steeps, I am going to finish drinking this tea, and then I'll be back with the final steep. So, the final steep of Shi Kun Mu's 2006 Legend of Yiwu. What did I think about this tea? Now, after a full session, I can quite confidently say that yes, this is indeed a good tea. It showed very good stamina. I got 9 steeps out of it. This is the 9th, and I'm 100% convinced that this can go a fair bit longer, especially if you steep a bit differently as always. But yeah, very, very solid impression of this tea so far. Personally, I wish it would have gotten a little bit more storage, because good material is not something that gets kind of destroyed or weakened by being stored and aged. But as it is right now, it still allows us to see the tea kind of for what it is, not for what it has become. Or what it was, maybe rather. And it is, in my opinion, a diverse blend of good quality tea from a bunch of different places that overall produces a quite harmonious result. I think this is a good blend of tea, and I find it very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to where it's gonna go once it does age a bit more. The material does seem strong, at least it showed a lot of endurance when I drank it here, which is always a good sign, because strong leaves have kind of more to give when it comes to aging. So I think it's enjoyable now. It might become even better in the future, depending on your preferences, of course. But even if you're somebody who is sort of hesitant, when it comes to aged pu'er, this might be a good entry point, because this tea doesn't feel too aged, but at the same time it does have certain characteristics that indicate that this is not a young tea anymore. So in a sense, this could serve as a nice gateway into the world of aged tea, while also getting something that is just good in general and that might even teach you a thing or two. Very nice tea. All right. I think I've said everything there is for me to say about this tea. It's nice. I recommend it. If you enjoy me reviewing tea, telling you about all sorts of things related to tea, please leave a like, share the video, subscribe to the nannuoshan YouTube channel, and don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.